these commissions being paid? Is it per transaction? Is it per folio that an advisor or a seller or a distributor gets on board?
See, I think it's a very pertinent question, Surabhi. How is my advisor being remunerated? Okay, it actually is very important for you to understand as a client how he's being remunerated, so that you can understand if there's any biased advice reaching you and any kind of vested interest being factored in the advice. So there are two types of commissions which can be paid to an MF distributor, mutual fund distributor. 90% of them actually opt for a not so good kind of a commission structure from a client's perspective, which is called the upfront commission. When an investor invests, the person who actually deposits the investment gets a commission upfront for the investment made.
And typically, what are the ranges? How does it vary?
See, it varies according to fund category. Generally, for you to understand that, it will be 60–70% of the expense ratio. Okay. So in an equity mutual fund, it would range between 1%, 0.8 to 1%. Okay. And in debt funds, it could be marginally lower.
So that's paid upfront the moment I, as an investor, sign up and take on a folio?
Absolutely.
Okay. So what's the second model?
The second model is, where seldom do people opt for it as organizations and advisors, is to say that you would get a trail commission. The nomenclature used is trail commission, by which I mean however long the investor stays invested, you get a percentage, a small percentage of the market value of the investment. Okay. So if one person has invested 1 lakh rupee, you don't get anything on the day when the client invests. You get a percentage every month, depending on whether he stayed invested for that period of that month or not. So if he stayed invested for 15 days out of the 1 year, if he chose to invest only for 15 days, the commission stops after 15 days.
Okay.
And if the value of the portfolio increases in terms of market value, your commission also grow up. And
then typically what sort of ranges are we talking about in this particular format?
See, this is marginally lower, and it can range between 0.6 to 0.9%, generally. Marginally lower, but unfortunately it does not pay you upfront. If the client pulls out the money, then the commission stops, even if it's 1 month commission. So it's the percentage which I told you was per annum. So per annum, if it's 0.6 to 0.9, and if the value grows, the percentage is not of the initial capital but also the market value.
Okay, so it seems to me that obviously the trail commission model seems to be a little more friendly as far as the investor is concerned, because there the commission is linked to the longevity perhaps of the investment, the returns, and it's not linked to the per transaction value or every time that you're churning a portfolio, right?
Correct. Absolutely. I think the trail commission, the client and the advisor are on the same side of the table. Because if my client's wealth doubles, my commission doubles. In an upfront commission model, I'm always in the lookout for trying to make a transaction so that I make some money out of it as an advisor. So an upfront commission model creates a behavioral pattern for you to give advice which is not maybe the best advice, because one fund would probably do bad for a couple of months and the advisor is latching on to that bad performance and moving the money from one place to another to get the upfront commission again, on which he has already earned some time back. So this was a large phenomena in India. Trail commissions were absolutely not popular. A few years back, there was an analysis done on the mutual fund folios, and then you realized equity folios were being held for not more than 10 to 12, 13 months because the advisor would actually be motivated to make the transaction happen.
That's very interesting. So definitely trail commission seems to be the friendlier bet. Is it now more widely accepted? What sort of distributors are opting for this model? Because from an investor's point of view, you want to perhaps be with advisors who are willing to consider this model.
Correct, absolutely. See, what happens is the entire organized setup of large setups especially have large costs already incurred and committed. So moving to a trail model for large NBFCs or large banks has become a very uphill task because they already have costs. But I think if somebody is going to be long-term greedy rather than short-term greedy as a wealth management outfit, they would opt for it. But in my opinion, there are very few. We have probably at least Anand Rathi has chosen to opt for a trail commission, and we have given away all upfront commissions so that no unsolicited, unrequired advice goes to the client, and move the churning, which was a phenomena which was a huge concern for regulator, gets addressed proactively rather than reactively.
Well, very important points here, and I think the first takeaway is at least investors need to start asking the right questions. Ask your advisor what is the model that he or she is following, and then see whether it suits your interests or not. Let's take a break on that.